I just came across a video of the ladies from The View discussing the arrest of Sean Puffy Combs that happened on Monday, September 16th. Now, I'm going to tell you, I like The View and I like the ladies on The View, but I got a serious problem with Miss Sunny, okay? And I know everybody's like, oh my God, why? What happened? Well, first off, like I prefaced already, I got mad love for these ladies. I think what they're doing is great. They are a reputable group of ladies that talk about stuff that I agree with most time. But this is one time I just had to say something because the stuff that Sonny said is just, gosh, man, it is dangerous, it's hella wrong, and it is misleading people who don't know the law. So, for instance, she was talking about the indictment. And the indictment, she said that it include charges that Puff Daddy actually was alleged to have engaged in sexual misconduct with minors. Now, I read this indictment, and I read a lot of stuff concerning this charge. There is nothing, I mean nothing in this indictment that concerns him having anything to do with children. So that is just plain out not correct. It is a bold-faced lie. Is nowhere in that document that says he's engaged with children. And trust and believe, if that was the case, it would be widely known. But I actually looked at the charging instrument and it doesn't say that. So that's the first thing. So that information is misleading. The second issue is that Sonny said if she were his attorney, she would tell him to take a plea. Now, I was a criminal defense attorney. It's dangerous and it's not best practice to tell your client to take a plea before the evidence comes. You're going to take a plea because the document charging you with a crime looks ugly. As I said in my last video, you can indict a ham sandwich. It can look like the sky and the moon in the sky and everything in between. That doesn't make it so, okay? Just because it looks ugly does not mean it is ugly. You got to stand and wait until the evidence come out and to tell your client to take a plea on some mess that just came out, and because it looks ugly, I don't understand why any attorney would tell a client to do that. It just doesn't make any sense. Because what if it's just a bunch of noise and a bunch of ugliness and the state and the government cannot prove it? Then this man has taken a plea up the duck on yonder. He's taken a plea and he's now in prison for the rest of his life. And it might be something that the government cannot actually substantiate. Now, for what it's worth, the government generally, and even the state, they're not going to make an allegation unless they feel confident that they can prove it. But until such a time, why would you take a plea and you don't even know what the evidence is? And this is also particularly interesting, you know what I'm saying? Because Puff Daddy's attorneys, they assisted in the investigation. His attorney turned over 144,000 pages of documents. They opened up the house to him. They have worked with them, with the government, even before they raided his house. And they believe that he is not guilty. Now, granted, that is the stance that the defense attorney has to take, but for him to actually take a plea before they're able to see any more evidence, that is just, it's just not right. It is bad, 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 bad. I don't see any sunlight in that statement. The other thing about that statement, and that is extremely dangerous, because The View is a show that's broadcast nationally. It's syndicated and probably international, right? So everybody gets to see that. So the problem is that you're going to have folks that are potential jury members who are going to be listening to her say this. And because she's an attorney, because she's on this reputable show, because of who she is and her status, these people might believe her. They might actually believe that, well, if Sonny says that he should take a plea even before the evidence come out, then guess what? He probably is guilty. So that's going to make it very difficult for the attorneys to pick a jury, because that very statement right there may have tainted an audience. And we already know whatever is online, it's likely going to stay there. So this is just so dangerous to me for an attorney or anyone to make a statement like that, but definitely an attorney. But the other thing is, to say that you will advise or tell your client to take a plea, it violates his constitutional right. And the reason for that is that the right to take a plea belongs to the defendant, the client. It does not belong to the attorney. It doesn't belong to the judge. It doesn't belong to the state. It doesn't belong to the government. It does not belong to the jury. It belongs only with the defendant. Only the defendant can decide if he wants to take the plea. And of course, he's going to talk with his attorney, maybe talk with his family to determine if that's the best way to go. But on a whole, only the defendant can decide whether or not he's going to take a plea or going to go to trial. And for an attorney and someone in that position to say that, God, man, it's just dangerous, and it's ugly, and it's horrible, because there are people out here that listen to this and will harp on it, and they're going to presume this man is guilty without giving him the presumption of innocence. And that's the thing. We talk about a democracy in this country, we talk about rights in this country, and for someone in that status to make such a dangerous statement, it violates everything that we know about democracy. It violates everything that we know about the criminal justice system. It violates everything we know about an individual and a defendant who is accused of criminal cases, his rights. He has a right to take a plea if he chooses to, but he also has the privilege of being presumed innocent until he is proven guilty. He is not proven guilty before the evidence is presented. So anyway, I just want to come out and say that because it just kept bothering me, and I just thought it was dangerous. And it also goes a long way, exactly when I said with our fathers, again, just because they look ugly, just because there's a lot of people out here saying bad things, just because there are a lot of folks saying, hey, dads, you're not going to get your child, that doesn't make it so. And I'm telling you, I represented dads when everybody around him told him he's not going to get his child, he's not going to get visitation. And somehow, by God's grace, I was blessed to actually get him what he wanted. You can check out the videos. I have listed them. You see them somewhere down here. So don't believe the hype. I just leave you as I always do. This is Attorney Hughes, the Bulldog attorney fighting for justice and the father's advocate. And as I always say, don't stop fighting. Your children do need you.